everybody. We are going to go hard today, and we will not spare any criticism. We will be pulling no punches when it comes to Donald Trump today. And we are going to focus on his absolutely disastrous. I'm hoping you can hear me. We are going to go incredibly hard on Donald Trump. We will be pulling no punches today. We are going to focus on his meltdown and his kind of insanity and memory loss and being off the charts in a panic about the election at the rally last night in Indiana, Pennsylvania. So again, the focus of today's show is to go hard against Donald Trump. There are occasionally people in the comments who don't believe in ever talking about Donald Trump. They don't want to see him on their screen. Guys, if that is you, see you later. Come back tomorrow because I think it's important and I want to do this. We only have 6 weeks until the election. And I am not going to let Donald Trump's misogyny, his racism, his xenophobia, and his outright insanity and lies go unaddressed or unfact-checked, guys. We are doing this. And it's going to be super fun because while we break down Donald's breakdown, we are going to laugh because he is a flipping joke. And he is not just a broken record. He is putting on some new albums that were never even like the flip side albums. He is putting on stuff that should have been left and crushed on the studio floor. Never should have been recorded. And so again, today we are going hard. And now, you know, there are several states where voting has started. And folks are going in person and voting. Other states where mail-in voting has begun. I live in Michigan, and our mail-in ballots are dropping this Thursday. I will be getting my mail-in ballot in the mail shortly, and I am going to vote. And I think I will vote right here, right on the show. Now, I won't show my ballot because I think there's some issue in some states or maybe somewhere about showing your ballot. But what I can show you is that I'm opening my envelope, I'm filling stuff out, and I can tell you, yes, I cast my vote for, and I will be saying this, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for President and Vice President of the United States. And I will be thrilled to do that. And what I will do is I will absolutely sip my favorite drink of choice, a cup of coffee, and we can celebrate together. I promise not to go all the way down the ballot to deal with all the other local issues. I'll do that part, and after the show, the rest. And I encourage you, if you can vote early, and or if you can do mail-in ballots, go ahead and do it. And I want to tell you, I'm nostalgic. Sometimes I just want to go there in person, and I get it. Just on election day, it feels good. But you know what? I decided to sacrifice that feel good, show up and vote in person on election day for the certainty of being able to cast my vote. Because as you know, my mom's in the hospital and I know she'll get out and she's going to be better and she's on the mend. But anything could happen on election day. And I will always prioritize what is going on with my family if there is an emergency. And I don't want anything to get in the way of my vote. So when my ballot shows up, I will be voting. And I encourage you to think about doing the same. And if you don't have mail-in voting or in-person voting, no matter what your situation is, I need you to make a plan for voting and to bring along a friend, right? Check, as you know, your registration, where you live, see where your precinct is, and make a plan. I know we always say there is no more important election, but now is obviously the most important one. That's just a fact. Okay, so Donald Trump lost it last night. He is doubling down on creepy. And before I get to explicitly the pieces I want to focus on, which especially include his attempt at thought control, his telling women, we don't need to worry about abortion. Okay, so that is completely insulting. And there are many reasons why, because it reduces us as if we are single issue voters. And we are not. I want to make it clear when anyone says, well, are you a single issue voter? Don't you care about anything about the right to abortion? What I would say, because it's true, I am not a single issue voter. But you know what I am? I am a deal breaker voter. Right to choose what to do with my body is a deal breaker. It's kind of like, if you think about it, forcing someone to go through a pregnancy against their will, forced birth. What the hell is that? I want the government out of my body, off my body. And as we said, talk about deep state. I do not want the state in my uterus, and I don't want any other person who becomes pregnant to be deprived of the choice of what to do with their body. And especially, it's tragic when we see so many women dying and bleeding out and having their reproductive freedom stolen because sometimes they become sterile after this process of not getting the health care they need. I don't want that to happen to any women, to any person, whether they are me or anyone else. So again, I am not a single issue voter, but freedom to choose is non-negotiable. It is a deal breaker. And anyone who blows you off and says, well, come on, there are other issues. Yeah, guess what? I'm also voting for the other issues that Kamala Harris stands for. But what I know is that step one to taking away a woman's freedom, a woman's happiness, her economic future, her ability to make decisions about herself is literally taking her body away from her. How could there be a larger liberty interest? Because the Constitution talks about liberty. How could there be a larger liberty interest, a larger property interest than jurisdiction over your own body? So again, it is not a single issue. It is a deal breaker. It would be kind of like if someone said, well, I'm sorry, but, they're dating you. And they say, here's what I have to offer. And they say, but I want to be able to rape you and force you to have my child. If a man said that to you on a date, you'd be like, no. And you'd run out of there. But if you had a conversation with him, which you wouldn't, but if you did, and he accused you of being a single issue dater, what's the big deal, he would say? I make a lot of money. I have a respectable job. I might be a good provider. I'm funny. I'm entertaining. We have the same taste in music and food. Why are you being such a single issue dater? You'd be like, I don't want to be raped, and I don't want to be forced to carry your baby to term. And let me tell you, that is what the Republicans have to offer for us. Literally, no exception for rape or incest. Literally, you would be forced to have the baby. Now, same thing. If you were dating a guy and he said, again, all these things that were nice, again, Donald Trump isn't saying those nice things because in his case, he's lying. And the guy were to say, but, should something happen, should we, be intimate and something happens with the birth control and you get pregnant, I'm sorry, but I'm going to force you to have the baby. I'm going to force you, even if you have let's say that the condom broke and the next morning you want to take the morning after pill so to prevent implantation. No. You can't do that. You would say, no, thank you. This is a fucking red flag. Leave me alone. This is really weird. And he would say, I can't believe you're a single issue dater. Yeah. Guess what? I'm not a single issue dater. I'm not a single issue voter. You know what I am? It's a deal breaker. It is an absolute deal breaker. It is non-negotiable what I do with my own body that does not hurt anybody else. And by the way, any little embryo or tissue in my body is part of me. And that is actually part of the Jewish religion. And by the way, the laws of the United States, until Donald Trump created his abortion ban through his Supreme Court, allowed us into up into 24 or 28, depending on how you look at it, weeks of pregnancy, to have that choice in every state. Period. And they took that away from us. And we will not forget. Now, before I get to Donald Trump doubling down on this crazy nonsense and his complete meltdown in Indiana, Pennsylvania last night at his pathetic rally that people did leave early, I need to share with you someone who is down ballot. Now, as you may know, I absolutely adore Sherrod Brown. He is the senior senator from Ohio. I love his wife. Separately from him, Connie Schultz, the writer. When I had a podcast on books called Booked Up, she came on to talk about her work, both her fiction as well as her new children's book, and we talked about her life. And I adore Connie. And these podcasts still exist. You could probably listen to it. It's Booked Up, and it's wherever you get your podcasts. But anyway, back to Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown is a mensch. I don't just know him from, watching him opine on cable news shows. I have testified before his Senate Banking Committee when he was a chair, and he was very gracious and very intelligent and smart. And we have spoken in a panel before at the Center for American Progress. Also, when a friend of mine was in trouble in a foreign country, and though she is not an Ohio citizen, she was with an Ohio citizen, he immediately got help for them from the State Department. I won't go into detail, but he is someone who cares about his constituents. And no, this constituent he helped from Ohio was not some super wealthy or famous. He was a good guy, an ordinary middle-class citizen, and Brown was there to help. There is no bigger supporter of the working class in America in the Senate than Sherrod Brown. And he is up for a tough election against one of these MAGA men. And his name is Marino. And I want to play for you the arrogance of this man, what he said. So I'm going to play this and we will talk on the other side. And yes, it does relate to reproductive freedom.
Getting harsh backlash tonight because of comments he made over the weekend about women who support reproductive rights. NBC4 obtained a video recorded at a Warren County town hall during which Marino accused suburban women of being focused solely on their ability to get an abortion and questioned why it would even be an issue for older women.
The left has a lot of single-issue voters. Sadly, by the way, there's a lot of suburban women. A lot of suburban women that are like, listen, abortion's it. If I can't have an abortion in this country whenever I want, I will vote for anybody else. Okay, a little crazy, by the way, but especially for women that are like past 50, I'm thinking to myself,
what?
It's an issue for you. Oh, thank God my wife didn't hear that one.
That's not funny. And he ends, oh, thank God my wife didn't hear that one. Let's be clear. I'm going to start with the last thing. He's assuming women over 50 can't get pregnant. First of all, many of us over 50 still can, naturally, as well as through assisted reproductive technologies, number one. Number two, doesn't that show a lot of things about this man? That he thinks that people only care about an issue that directly affects them? Huh? They don't say that about other issues. I am not a Haitian immigrant living in Springfield, Ohio, under attack by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, just trying to live my best life, be part of my community. But I care about people in Springfield, Ohio. Similarly, women who either don't want to get pregnant or cannot get pregnant still care about abortion rights. And guess what? So do men. So do men. So what he's basically saying is you should only care about the issues that directly affect you. So that's one thing. Secondly, he used the opportunity to mock women. Again, there's this idea that unless you are in your ages of fertility, Hollywood calls this effable. Unless you're in that age of reproduction, you have no value to society or to men. We heard about this from J.D. Vance, that if you are sort of what he called it postmenopausal, you should drop whatever you're doing and raise children, just because his mother helped out and flew across the country when she is, of course, a professor at Stanford and has time off through the tenure system and could do that. Meanwhile, so many other women who are past their reproductive years, and I can't even believe I have to say that, have work, have jobs. And how sexist it is to think that people should volunteer their care work if they are women for the advancement of people like him, because he did not want to take care of his own children when his wife was working. Okay, so there's that. But let's get to this bigger issue, which I've already talked about. No, we are not crazy to make the right to choose when, if, when, and how to have children, what to do with our bodies. We're not crazy that that is a deal breaker. You are crazy to think that we're saying it's our own issue, dude. We have other issues with your party and with your candidacy. Okay, so let us now get down and into Donald Trump at that rally. Now, first I got something a little funny to get a sense of how off Donald Trump is. He's talking in this next clip about how they should bring Johnny Carson back to host the Tonight Show. And the problem with that, as many of you know, is that Johnny Carson died in January of 2025. It's been almost 20 years, and I'm not aware of the technology, Donald, that would bring him back to the Tonight Show. The host of the Tonight Show is now, as you know, Jimmy Fallon. Before him was, I want to say, Conan O'Brien, maybe. And there was even, there was Jay Leno as well in there in between. I'm getting them out of order. So we are 3 hosts past Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson is not with us. But still, Donald has some really weird, impossible memories and desires around that. Someone said Jen Taubit is the wrong year. I said, I'm sorry, 2005 is what I meant to say. If I misspoke, of course, I don't think Johnny Carson died next year. Johnny Carson died in January of 2005. Apologies, this is a live show for misspeaking. As I said, it's been 20 years almost. I said in January of 2025, it will be 20 years since he died. Johnny Carson is long 2 decades not with us. Okay, let's play this.
2015, thinking about running. I was going to run. I went on his show, right? And he goes, The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam?
Yeah, okay. He was thinking of running. He said he went on Johnny's show. I don't know when that was. You know, Donald always says he was thinking of running. You cannot bring back Johnny Carson. Now, you may say, oh, he's just joking. He means bring back someone like Johnny Carson. Fine. Even so, come on. That is nuts. Okay. I got something else for you. Not as funny, but very Donald. Let's go hard.
It's our fault because it's a war that should have never been allowed to happen, and we had the power that it would never have happened.
He is blaming the United States for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And he is suggesting that Joe Biden did not use the power that he had to stop it. And he is also intimating that he would have. What an absolute lie. I don't need to fact check for you, but what it strikes me is whenever I hear Donald Trump talking Kremlin talking points, I'm reminded of Tim Pool and the other podcasters that we talked about recently, where it was discovered because of an indictment that they were being paid by a shell company, Tenet, that was backed by RT, which is backed by the Kremlin. So in other words, they were being paid by the Russian government, people like Tim Pool and other Americans, $100,000 per podcast to talk their talking points, similar to what Donald Trump is saying. And I have to ask you, given that we know, even though Robert Mueller could not prove that there was any agreement, we do know that Russia was helping Donald Trump in the 2016 election. And we do know, we found out from the testimony of Michael Cohen that yes, in the run-up to the 2016 election, Donald was trying to do a deal for a Trump Tower in Moscow. So even if Vladimir Putin hasn't explicitly promised Donald money, which we don't know because remember when they met in Helsinki, he got that soccer bowl, Donald refused to have anyone come in and translate and create any kind of record. If they're willing to pay little old Tim Pool for his audience, essentially, to peddle talking points to them, how much do you think Vladimir Putin is willing to pay Donald Trump to do his bidding? I don't know. We know, and let's not forget this, and I don't want to be Russia, but that hasn't gone away. We know that when Donald Trump was broke, because he runs every business of his into the ground, it's true, look up the bankruptcy filings of his many businesses, including the casino businesses that he ran through a sort of holding company that went broke. Remember Individual Casino where it was going broke and his father, Fred Trump, had to come in with millions of dollars and buy chips, right? Paid for the chips to the casino with cash, and then instead of gambling, walked out with the chips. In other words, that was a loan to the casino. This man cannot keep a business afloat. Do I need to point to the increasingly dropping stock price of DJT, his company? I mean, I have the receipts. I'm not going to throw up my footnotes here, but trust me, I have the receipts. He runs everything into the ground. And we heard what Eric said on an interview that increasingly they were getting their funding for their failing golf courses from Russian investors. The Russian oligarchy is tied right back to Vladimir Putin. Okay, I got that for you. And if you want to know more that you didn't know about Russia's meddling in the 2016 and more importantly, in the 2020 election, really, you should watch the new documentary that Rachel Maddow put out called To Russia with Lev. It's silly, it's funny, and it's scary at the same time. Okay, so that's great. He is reminding us that he's doing Kremlin talking points. Let me throw up a word salad before I get to his most crazy thing.
I had the other interview with the other guy who was a nice guy, I think, from Philadelphia, from Pennsylvania. And he was a nice guy. He was asking her all these, they don't take like I do. Anybody who wants to go, what the hell difference does it make? They have, and how dishonest was ABC? It was
What? Guys, I need to actually play this one again because it was such a word salad that I thought it was me. So will you go with me and listen to this and try to figure out what's going on? I'm not going to sane-splay him. I just want to listen carefully to see if I can pick out any words.
She had the other interview with the other guy who was a nice guy, I think, from Philadelphia, from Pennsylvania. And he was a nice guy who was asking her all these, they don't take like I do.
She must mean Kamala Harris. The other guy from Philadelphia, I have no idea who he is talking about. And they don't take like I do. I have no idea.
Anybody who wants to go, what the hell difference does it make? They have, and how dishonest.
Okay, that was a bunch of stuff. Don't know what it meant. Now we're getting to something being dishonest.
Was ABC. It was 3.
Okay, that was a pivot to the debate that he lost. Okay, I did not understand that at all. Okay, so now I got for you. I got something else that's funny before I get to the abortion thing. I think you're gonna love this. So, one thing he said on stage, he's one of his favorite things to say is, "Don't elect me because everyone will be laughing with us like they used to when Joe Biden was president." So let's listen to this because people are not actually laughing with Joe Biden. As you know, he was able to, with Kamala Harris, build up a coalition so that the attack on Ukraine would not have been done in a day. Vladimir Putin thought he was going to move in and take the areas on the border and even get in and take Kiev. Did not do it. It's a disaster, the fact that war is still going on. Not our fault, not Joe Biden's fault, and no one is laughing at us. Let's play this.
The whole world is laughing at us. We're going to be stronger. They weren't laughing at us 4 years ago. They were not unhappy to see me head off.
Okay. So two things. He's saying, three things. He's saying they're laughing at us now. No, not true. They're saying they weren't laughing at Donald when he left office. They weren't happy to see him leave. Okay. So actually, when Donald Trump addressed the UN in 2018, they were literally laughing at him. Let's play that.
Less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
His face looked red. He looked nervous. They were laughing at him, and he acknowledged it. And then I think, in good sport, they acknowledged that he acknowledged their laughter. So the first laugh was at him. Maybe the second laugh was with him. Not really good at all, guys. Not good at all. Okay. Still, one more thing. I swear to you, we're gonna get there to the crazy stuff about women. Let's play this. This is straight from Project 2025, and this was last night at his rally. He's totally melting down. He's hitting all the wrong points. He doesn't know Johnny Carson is still dead. He's blaming us, and with a Kremlin talking point, for invading Ukraine. He thinks people are laughing at anyone but him. Let's play this.
Per pupil than any other country by far, and yet we're at the bottom of the list. Out of 40, we're ranked about number 40. And I'm going to close the Department of Education.
Okay. Again, I'm going to close the Department of Education. He says that is straight from Project 2025. It doesn't matter whether he says he's read it. He told you he's going to claim he didn't read it. He doesn't read, just so he can have that, I would call it implausible deniability. How does it make any sense if we're having trouble in our schools to close the Department of Education? It does help provide funding to state and local governments. You cut that, schools lose more of their budgets. Very ideological plan. As you know, they would rather have moms of liberty, and other local people just ban books that they haven't read and don't like because someone told them not to like them. Okay. We also, of course, have Donald Trump saying that the economy, saying that if they don't elect him, the stock market will crash. Have you looked around lately and seen that the S&P and Dow are at an all-time high? Okay, so now we're getting to this crazy part. I'm gonna actually play it all through, except if there's a moment when I feel like we need to talk about it. I think I'm just gonna make faces and shake my head and stuff and let him have his piece, because you know what? On its own, if I break it up, you'll have normal in between. I don't want any normal. I want you to hear what he was saying in Indiana, Pennsylvania last night.
All right, so we have to talk business. I always thought women liked me. I never thought I had a problem. But the fake news keeps saying women don't like me. I don't believe it. I think, you know why? They like to have strong borders. They like to have safety. Nothing personal. I think they like me. But I make this statement. Thank you. I love you too. I love you too. Thank you. But I think they like me because I represent something that's very important. I make this statement to the great women of our country. Sadly, women are poorer than they were 4 years ago, much poorer, are less healthy than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future than they were 4 years ago. I believe that. I will fix all of that and fast, and at long last, this nation and national nightmare will end. It will end. We've got to end this national nightmare. Because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector. I will make you safe at the border, on the sidewalks of your now violent cities, in the suburbs where you are under migrant criminal siege, and with our military protecting you from foreign enemies, of which we have many today because of the incompetent leadership that we have. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer be in danger. You're not going to be in danger any longer. You will no longer have anxiety from all of the problems our country has today. You will be protected, and I will be your protector. Women, women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion. It's all they talk about, abortion, because we've done something that nobody else could have done. It is now where it always had to be, with the states and a vote of the people.
What the actual fuck was that? What was that? I was taking notes because I didn't wanna interrupt him, because I wanted you to see what was going on there. And I think I'm gonna take it in order. He begins by saying, I've never had any problem with women, never heard that. It's just the fake news. Okay. He has heard it. He has been sued by many women. He was found liable for sexual abuse and defamation involving my friend E. Jean Carroll. And the judge did say that was the equivalent of rape. He has also been accused by many other women, and he even admitted that he's been accused, even though he calls them not his type. So the idea that he doesn't think he's ever had any problem with women is not true. He must have had some problem with his first 3 wives, and maybe even, actually, this is his 3rd wife. What am I saying? We've got Ivania. We've got Marla Maples, and then, of course, we have Melania. He's definitely had trouble with all three wives. You don't see her on the campaign trail at the moment, and he's apparently stooping, but who really knows? Laura Loomer. Yeah, he's had problem with women. He knows he's had problems with women because he's looked at the polls. Just like he blames the Jews, he knows what the polls say about women. So yeah, he knows he has problems with women, and he wouldn't be talking about women if he didn't think he would. Now, his big emphasis that he repeats several times is, I want to be your protector, which is creepy as F. No one asked him to be our protector. This is a very much old trope. It is a dangerous one. You see it in the old fairy tales where the helpless, hapless young female needs to be rescued by the strong older man who then can sweep her into happily ever after, where she doesn't need to have any worries or make any decisions for herself. And you've noticed that a lot of those fairy tales end with the marriage and nothing else, because, you know, in this fantasy world and in a certain era in time for a certain class of woman, the entire life's ambition was to get married and to get married well. If I may quote Jane Austen here, there is a truth universally recognized that a man with a great fortune is in want of, there is a truth universally acknowledged that a man with in possession of a great fortune is in want of a wife. And that is an ironic statement. But yes, so he is trying to step in the role. We're addressing women as if he wants to be our stereotypical male protector, as if he sees us as needing his protection in a particular way. And he said, don't make too much of it. Yeah, I'll make too much of it. I'll make just the right amount of it. He also claimed that as protector, he would keep our borders safe. Then why did he encourage the Republicans to not allow to pass the bipartisan border bill? That's not true. He also said that we would somehow be more safe if he were elected on the sidewalks. The man who is an adjudicated rapist and who is creepy as all out when he went into women's dressing rooms, who probably himself has never really walked down a sidewalk, doesn't actually know that the place where we are the least safe as women, the least safe, is not on sidewalks. It is in our homes facing domestic partner abuse, something that he probably doesn't even acknowledge. Remember, at one time, his lawyer and, Michael Cohen was a bad guy, did bad things, even though he has redeemed himself. And he once screamed at someone who was bringing up something Ivana Trump wrote in her own book, that Donald Trump had raped her when they were married because he was angry at her. This is in her book. And when a reporter wanted to talk about it, this was in the run-up to the 2016 election. It's documented that Michael Cohen at that time screamed at him and also said that a man cannot rape his wife. Essentially, that a man in a marriage is entitled to a woman's body at all times. So no, I don't think on the sidewalks of the suburbs is what people need to be concerned about. Now, not all men. And also this can happen in same-sex relationships. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, statistically speaking, you are less safe in your home than on a sidewalk. And you certainly, statistically speaking, or anecdotally speaking, are less safe alone with Donald Trump than you would be on a sidewalk somewhere. Also, then his whole thing about how women are so much sadder and unhappy and less healthy than we were 4 years ago. And I got to tell you, that is not true. 4 years ago during COVID in 2020, I, like many other people, was eating my feelings and baking a lot. And I probably put on, and not that weight is a full indicator of health, but I probably put on 25 pounds during COVID with a lot eating and making and perfecting my flourless chocolate cakes. And it was only after Donald Trump lost the election, and we were able to celebrate that fall that I began the process, mostly in the summer of 2021, to get moving, to take the weight off. And I'm working hard on staying healthy, and I am much happier. I have far less anxiety now than I did 4 years ago. Again, that's anecdotal. Okay, but he says, if we are stressed or anxious, he's going to fix it all as our protector. And then he gets to what he has said before on Twitter, and now he is actually saying out loud, and you will be so happy that you won't even need to think about abortion. Okay, I don't sit around thinking about abortion because, like any other reproductive health issue or medical issue, at least before Roe versus Wade was taken away by Donald Trump and the Trump abortion bans became in place, I didn't actually think about it, right? I didn't think about it, but now I think about it in the context of election, and that's what we thought about, by the way, in 2018, and why the Republicans did so badly, and why we took back the Senate and nearly got the House, and they got a House with such a slim margin, they couldn't get anything done to hurt us. So that's why we're thinking about abortion. And as I've said at least twice in the show, if not 3 times, we are not single issue voters when it comes to abortion, but reproductive freedom and not being forced to carry a baby to term. When it was just a bit of tissue, we could have just used a medication abortion or had an abortion before Roe versus Wade was taken away by Donald Trump in the first 24 or so weeks. That was what we had before. Now they've taken it away. So yes, it is non-negotiable, and it should be non-negotiable. It's not a single issue. It is a deal breaker. And no, if you are elected, we will still be thinking about it. Stop with your weird mind control. Just stop. And the last thing I'll say, because I know you've heard it before, maybe you don't have a response to people. No. Putting it back to the states where it belonged, what the fuck does that mean? What he's talking about is prior to the Donald Trump abortion bans brought about by his handpicked Supreme Court, the choice of whether to continue a pregnancy was the choice of the pregnant person that she could make with her doctors. And that is why young girls, victims of incest or victims of rape, could get abortions. And that is why families who are planning, like Amber Thurman, she was in a situation where she had a 6-year-old son and needed to, support him, was in the process of going to nursing school. And before the Trump abortion bans, she could have made that dream happen. But she was killed because of Donald Trump, because she was allowed to bleed out and die. And that is the result of the Trump abortion bans. So, no, leaving it to the states sounds fancy. What they did, the reality is they took the right for Amber Thurman to be a mother to her son, to live out her life, to become a nurse. They took the choice. They took the choice away from her and her doctor over whether to have an abortion. And they gave it to a bunch of strangers who run a state legislature, who are out of step with the people, to decide they knew more than her and her doctors, and to let her die. So no, that's not where it, quote, belonged. The right to choose belongs in the hand of the people who have the body that can get pregnant. Please get your laws off our bodies. Okay, now, I got one more thing before our fun crazy town. I think you will appreciate this. I think that you have heard quite a bit recently about something called the SAVE Act. And maybe you're wondering what it is. So we have a situation where, as you know, the MAGA Republicans, which control the Republican Party, are doing anything they can to use the pretext of voter fraud to try to make it harder for all kinds of people to vote. And the latest thing that they did that is the most audacious is introduce a bill called the SAVE Act. And it requires so much documentation before you would vote that probably around 40% of women in America would not be able to vote. And my friends, that is not an accident. That is not a bug, that is a feature. And I'm going to share with you a fabulous little TikTok explaining it.
If your driver's license doesn't match your birth certificate, like many married women.
Wait, what? So they are making it in the SAVE Act, which is required to pass in order to pass a budget and keep the government open. They must pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act says basically that you need to have certain documentation to be able to vote. And women who have a different name on their identification than they do on their birth certificate are going to have a hard time voting. Do you see what they're doing? Do you see it? Do you see?
Do you? Do you actually see what they're doing here? You are talking about situations where many women, when they get married, take their husband's last name. And they do not go to either the Hall of Records in their town, or they do not go to probate court and officially do the name change. And when you do, you're allowed to change your name lawfully. That is a reason to do it. And they don't even charge you if you're doing it because of marriage. If you're doing it for a different reason, they will charge you. If you haven't done that, what that means, and if you've been going about using your husband's name without officially changing it, what that means is you might be in a situation where your birth certificate doesn't match your driver's license, and therefore your passport wouldn't either, and so on. And they are requiring you to bring proof of U.S. Status, that you are a U.S. citizen. So that would be something like a passport. They're requiring you to also bring something that you have to actually have in addition, maybe a driver's license. But that wouldn't be enough. So again, and then you also, if any of your documents, like your birth certificate, doesn't match that, you can't vote. Do you know how much time it will take close to 20% of American women to get this straightened out and the effort? Do you think they're all going to do it? And then what happens if you get divorced? Again, this is not hypothetical. This would also happen if you were trying to get one of these new IDs that you need to get, these specially approved IDs to travel. You might have a regular driver's license. I now have an enhanced one. And this happened to my mom, who not only had she taken on my father's last name. She always used her own maiden name as a middle name. But when she was younger, she changed her first name. She was born with a first name she did not like. You hear about kids doing this today? My mom did it way back in the day. So she started to go by a different first name that she invented, close to her real birth name. And she's been that name since she went to college. And the only person in the world who called her by her old name was my late grandmother. And I love my grandmother, but it annoyed the F out of my mother. Well, guess what? About 5 years ago, in order for her to fly and get enhanced, to maybe update something, I can't remember what it was, she had to go through the whole process of changing her name, and it was a hassle. So yes, this is the plan for the Republicans. It's what they want to do. This is a feature, not a bug. Okay, guys. So let's get to, yes, it was, so Johnson it was absolutely, that language was taken out. because it could not pass. But remember, a lot of legislation that they have cooking doesn't come into effect until years later. They didn't think they would ever overturn Roe versus Wade. I am certain if Donald Trump wins again, legislation and he is able to do it, this kind of legislation would be enacted. Okay, so let's do this, guys. It is fun time for Crazy Town. And you know how crazy it makes Donald when people walk out of his rallies. And so I have for you something from last night in Indiana, Pennsylvania, where we actually have people, the Harris campaign documented this. We do have people leaving Donald's rally. And it's really sad. It's really sad when that happens. But here we go. I've got to remove something from the studio. This is really worth it. And these are people leaving.
This woman taking her, she's so much worse. She was here to take and just be coming you don't have the television guys all over, but the real military, you can put them in a room for 2 years and scream, won't get them. When they walk out.
I love how they speeded it up. Yes, my friends. It's funny. I'll play it out for us. They did speed it up, but you can see he's talking, and they are going.
This woman taking her, she's so much worse. She was here to take
and I will see you guys. And I will see you guys today. I'm going to be joining Nerd Avengers. And don't forget, tonight, we are going to be part of the Geeks and Nerds for Harris. This is organized by Wonder Woman Linda Carter. And we will be on, I think it starts at 8. We're going to be on a little after 9 p.m., our team. It's going to be Mary, Waj, Brian, and I. And Brian will be in a Han Solo costume. Very much looking forward to it. I will be wearing a costume too. Can't wait to see you at noon today and tonight. And you can sign up online. Don't forget it. Geeks and Nerds for Harris. Bye.